Welcome back to Doctor 10. We're still here on exclusive with myself and I, Bryce and Akwesi Amaning. And tonight, there's going to be a conversation between myself and my guest, which we recorded days ago. The gentleman, Fred Hampton Jr., is the son of an American activist, Fred Hampton Sr., who was assassinated back in the US in 1969 for speaking his mind, and asking for more as a black person, and also as somebody who led a party called the Black Panther Party back in the day in the US. I mean, when you want to talk about US politics, you can't talk about that without forgetting Fred Hampton Sr. And tonight, his son is all the way here in the studio from the US in our makeshift studio. After that conversation, I'll be back with our new segment, Crew Couch, here on Exclusive. Don't go nowhere, enjoy this talk, and we shall be back. Chairman Fred, as he wants to be called, Fred Hampton Jr., or we can say Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. is an American activist and the son of Fred Hampton, a prominent leader of the Black Panther Party, who was assassinated by the FBI and Chicago police in 1969. Now, following in his father's footsteps, Hampton Jr. has dedicated his life to social justice, community organizing, and the fight against systematic racism and police brutality. Now, early life and background, a quick one. Full name Fred Hampton Jr., like I told you, born on the 29th of December, 1969 in Chicago, Illinois. And parents' name is Fred Hampton. The mother, Deborah Johnson Noun, a queer injury. So my guest tonight is Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. Thank you.
Thank you, Madasi.
I appreciate your time here.
Appreciate being here.
I mean, I cannot call you a Ghanaian. Your third time being in Ghana.
Yes,
am I correct?
You're correct.
First of all, what brought you here?
They call, once you come, they call and come back home in general. But in particular, let me preface with this.
Right.
Happy Ghana Independence Day. So this month, and I guess we're still celebrating. That's one of the reasons here, but also our ongoing work with the present day Rainbow Coalition, something that Chairman Fred Sr., that he authored, which he took different forces from different races and brought them certain points of political unity.
Right.
The Black Panther Party Cubs, which I'm the international chairman of now, we still have that present day Rainbow Coalition. We still have forces from the indigenous, the native community, and other forces in particular. We're here to do touch down and network with our people here. Got a few things planned since we've been here. A tema, got a couple of events, some movie showings, the movie Judas and Black Messiah.
Right.
We try to find ways, making that connection with our people.
Now, let's talk about what you do and who you are.
Yeah.
First of all, someone will ask, why would you want to follow into your father's footsteps?
I guess it's like an axiom or a saying they have like in the church, what's your calling? And I guess it's like a fit. But let me premise with this. It wasn't like I don't romanticize that of revolution or revolutionary. I've seen a detrimental impact that comes with the assassinations, political imprisonment,
right,
and other dynamics. However, I grew up in a city where not only a lot of situations have not changed, in many cases the names had not even changed for a while. Particularly, I grew up at a time during the tenure of the infamous, what was known as the Daley Machine. And that's named in reference to the Mayor Richard Daley, who was the mayor on his tenure. My father and Defense Captain Mark Clark were assassinated. I was targeted myself under his son's tenure. So a lot of similar situations kind of helped put me on track for this be my calling. And I say I'm a Black Panther Party Cub by birth and by battle.
Right. Now, first of all, I mean, I've watched the movie Judas.
Yes.
I mean, produced by Warner Bros.
Yes.
Where it tells the story of your father, what he stood for and what he did.
Yeah.
First of all, let's talk about the movie.
Yes.
What role did you play in the movie to ensure that the stories that were captured is true and not just a life story or fiction?
Yeah.
What role did you play?
Subsequently, we ended up, myself and my mother comrade, we were the cultural experts. Initially, that wasn't the plan. So they had it was said to be, in some sense, like the stereotypical the consultants. but actually they were moving here without, and we hadn't been contacted. And as I say, I use the term consultants kind of loosely. In many cases, they'll say you're a consultant, but you're really not involved in it.
Right.
And we've had a lot of struggles in regards to people attempted to put out unauthorized books, movies. In fact, I think prior to Forrest Whitaker doing The Butler, there was some discussion. He was talking about doing a movie on Chairman Fred, and people that told him, say, hey, his son is serious. His son, so hold you accountable. I think Antoine Fuqua, there were some discussions, but it was coming from some perspective of an unauthorized book. So there was different struggles. So this time we heard about it. We was like, okay, here we go again. We didn't know how much steam it was going to take. And then certain things that happened. We said, wait a minute, they casting people. So this person is going to play my mother, so on and so forth. Who subsequently was Dominique Fishback, phenomenal young lady. And so we said, wait a minute, we have to meet with these people. So it was kind of tug and pull. And again, subsequently, we ended up being the cultural experts on the set, day to day, taking into account actual meetings with these forces. In fact, the cast, including Daniel Kaluuya.
Yeah. I mean, he did an amazing work in a way. Shouts to him. That was an amazing work right there.
In fact, we ended with what I refer to as a dream team. The cast, we had some serious dialogue. We met at the house, the Chairman Fred that he grew up in, known as the Hampton House. We met there, we dialogued, we back and forth. We went to the community, and some things were on the spur of the moment, like on a pivot. We would say, for example, I was doing a discussion with them. I said, let's just Google the worst neighborhood in Chicago. And they happened to Google. And there were 11 murders on the west side of Chicago.
11?
11 murders on a place called known as K-Town. It's infamous. Madison and Keeler. I said, well, it was about 3 a.m. I said, I need to go, we need to meet there. And they said, well, the studio would not allow that. I said, well, this has to happen. So we back and forth, it happened. Myself, Daniel Kaluuya, Dominique Fishback, Charles King, because you mentioned by Warner Brothers, but I also want to shout out Macro, Charles King. They played a major role also with this production happening. So we went right there, and I watched them. I studied them. The scenes, the community. It's a term that comedic genius Richard Pryor says he's a peopleologist. He studied people. So I studied them. So these are some of the initial discussions that happened before we were able to go ahead and commit to being on the set of the movie.
Absolutely. But then I getting any rights for monies generated for the movie? It's an important question in ways.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. However, it played a key role. I'm gonna say this. It played a key role with the time we were fighting to actually save the house. The banks were to take the house that Chairman Fred grew up in, and I think someone pointed out recently in Hollywood, there's this image that you get this big bag, this big payoff. It wasn't a big payoff, and we held the line with it. There was some resources allocated, but it wasn't. And I think I talk about this like in a lot of situations, kind of like what Tupac said. We paid a price for our politics too. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? This is a lot of things impacted us because, mind you, this came out we refer to as the pandemic. You know what I'm saying? So we weren't expecting the coronavirus, all that. So that impeded a lot of things like the mainstream, opening, the red car, all that. You know what I'm saying? So it was a mainstream movie. However, the pandemic, all that impacted a lot of things with the movie, money being allocated. In fact, speaking of which, we want to set up like some showings throughout Africa. Yeah, and also we just showed it. Ironically, we just did a premiere. The first, myself and Daniel Kaluuya and Shaka King, who's the director. We just showed it inside a Fishkill prison, and Daniel Kaluuya had said we had never, due to the pandemic, so we had never had an actual premiere. He said, well, this is fitting. This will have an actual premiere. So it was actually inside the prison.
I believe that was a solitude moment for you. I mean, watching that particular premiere happen there like that. But let's talk about the impact the movie has made on your father's story.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a new generation called Gen Z.
Yeah.
The Alpha is coming up.
Yes.
To what extent do you think the movie narration or the storyline of the movie has impacted the new generation who don't really know who Chairman Fred Hampton really was?
I think it's ongoing. I think it's ever developing. This is in fact, Daniel Kaluuya, I just talked to him the other day. His birthday was a few days ago. Just talked to him, and we constantly comment about how this is for life. You know what I'm saying? In fact, we have a hashtag JATBM, the cast, Judas and Black Messiah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Judas and Black Messiah.
It's ongoing. It's ongoing. You know, it was not a one-hit wonder. And there's certain this present political climate that we in now. There's certain things that people can relate to look back and see the different dynamics. In fact, I had commented on a movie set during the filming of the scene around the free breakfast program. I said, I don't think this generation is going to grasp the significance of a free breakfast program. And people say, why do you say that? I said, you got to keep in mind, this generation grows up, Uber Eats and Grubhub, you know what I'm saying? So the climate, so they're not going to connect. So the politics is like a Tupac song. It's not as opposed to like some rap music you hear say, oh, that's good, it's over with. This is not a microwave meal. It's ongoing, what I'm saying? The political impact, and we were able to put what we refer to as Panther Cub pills in applesauce. So, what I'm saying? It's every day I get calls from people in prison, they say, well, I didn't catch that. Even myself. This last 2 weeks, we've been showing a movie throughout Chicago. And I see certain things, I say, wow, I didn't catch the significance. Even things that I struggled, because there were a lot of struggles on the movie set. There were times where political positions clashed would be cinematographically speaking, or movie-wise, were great scenes, but there were political clashes. Like, say for example, scene with a young lady, Dominique Thorne, who played Judy Palmer, who's on Chairman Fred Security. There was a scene initially when the police came in front of the Panthers headquarters. She came out blazing, shooting. And they were like, wow, that's great. I said, no, that can occur. That's a political contradiction. Because the first name for the Black Panther Party was the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense.
Black Panther Party for Self-Defense.
And that's important to note, because a misnomer or incorrect narrative that's given not only with the Black Panther Party, African people, Black people, period, is that we drew first blood, that we on the offense, you know what I'm saying, as opposed to putting stuff in context. Like, no, the moves, even if it's in some cases seem to be reactionary, it's a response to something that's happened to us, whether it be trauma, whatever the case may be. So we had to straighten that scene out. The Black Panther Party, they didn't shoot first, you know what I'm saying? Even how they did so that was some of the examples about the political clash there. So I would go back and look at certain scenes and say, I see the significance of this. This was good. This was like, even when we showed it in the prison, I was like, wow, is this going to happen? I literally was like, talking to the director, Shaka King, like, this is really going to be poured off. And there were scenes you could see the dichotomy, you know what I'm saying? With one scene where Chairman Fred's character and Deborah Johnson's character, you know what I'm saying, they're in the bed together. Then you see the flip with the scene with Spurs and Jake Winters, you know what I'm saying, is defending himself against Chicago police. So the way it didn't get you too long stuck in just one part. You had to constantly be on your feet on a pivot.
Now, this is why I want to ask you this question. I mean, in anticipation for this conversation, I spoke to a couple of my friends who are in the States.
Yes.
I mean, people who may have lived to know what exactly happened back then, or probably may have been told a story by their grandmothers who saw whatever happened there. And not every single Black person in the US appreciates what exactly the Black Panther stood for. There have been times of people I've spoken with who say that the Black Panthers' work or fight for racism and all that was marred by violence and bloodshed. And so not every person or every Black person resonates with that. Do you assent to that? Or is it something that is true? Is it true? Have you heard something like that? Like, not every Black person, I mean, is in support or was in support of the Black Panther Party because of the way they did their things.
I think, well, we say that the Black Panther Party has suffered a military defeat after 1969. However, ideologically, they won. So overall, the masses of people still have a love.
But was it too violent?
Was it too violent?
Activities of Black Panther.
No, I think initially, when you take polls and you talk to people, it's like a trauma victim. Initially, sometimes people will give you the quote unquote politically correct say, like people go ask you what's your thoughts on this, and there's still a fear factor
Right.
for people not to openly acknowledge that when you talk to people, the open, honest, the love they still have for the Black Panther Party, even people we refer to as being demoralized, who have drug habits, what have you. When you pull that first layer off, you hear so many what we refer to as war stories and love stories. People say the work.
War and love.
War and love stories, because the death of a revolutionary is guided. Che Guevara has said that no matter how preposterous it may sound, it's guided by the most sincere sentiments of love. The misnomer is put out that you gave it, saying that you is moving at some hate. In fact, the Panther Party had a term called jackanate. Jackanate was a person who didn't care about the people or the police. They just rah reactionary. The Panther Party, their motivation to get up the service to the people, the free breakfast program, the free busing programs, the prison, the survival program. It was a guy. You had stories, war and love stories, where there would be ladies who were going through labor pain, still getting the breakfast ready for the free breakfast program. You have situations where people, the free busing programs, the prison. That service, it produced it was a commitment that sticks to the hearts and minds of people to this day. So overall, the mass of course, the state did their propaganda, and there's still a continuous attempt to twist that narrative around. But overall, the mass of the people have a love and admiration for the Panther Party.
Anyways, I mean, if you should go on Google and try to enter the name Fred Hampton, I mean, you see pictures and all that, but then you don't see only his picture. You see pictures of Malcolm X, pictures of him, Martin Luther King. They all come up. I mean, a lot of freedom fighters.
Yes.
And there your father is. Anytime, first of all, have you tried doing that? Have you randomly gone on Google just to type in his name and see what will pop up? Have you tried that before?
Yes, I have. I periodically do it because
just to see the new stories.
To see the new stories. Exactly.
Anytime you do that and see pictures of him and other freedom fighters, how does that make you feel?
Honored, humbled, to have, as a term we use, a real model as opposed to a role model.
Real
model as opposed to a role model. Someone that we can identify and relate with, someone that came from our situation, that we can, some of those same street names and even present-day organizing, like when certain of the street organizations or the gangs that he had organized. I've had similar situations with even some of those their offspring. When I had organized them and take them, I mentioned the present-day Rainbow Coalition. I just spoke at the funeral services of Chairman Cha-Cha Jimenez, who he was the founder and leadership for the Young Lords.
Right.
And to be there to speak at that funeral, to have comrades, who was my father's comrades and my present-day comrades, to have President comes with his daughter, Melissa, the native indigenous community to this day, Kamloops Manuel, her father's phenomenal organizer in quote so-called Canada, for us to be doing present-day work. So it's sometimes it kind of like, whoa, it's like history, repeat itself, but we relate to a philosophical tool known as dialectical materialism, where we see things are constantly being born and growing, but dying and disintegrating also. So a lot of again, it's an honor to have that template to be able to look at and to relate to.
What does the Black Month means to you? The month for the Black people, the month to celebrate everything Black. What does it mean to you?
In fact, there's some discussion going on now about let's take it past the month of February, because there's always been a joke. People say, well, I was the shortest month in the year that would be Black History Month, and you have time periods where even though the ruling class was sanctioned, but they would give you the stereotypical, more safe individuals, say, okay, you can look at or athletes, and the conditions are so intensified at certain periods of time that doesn't satisfy the palate, where people have to up the ante, you have to dig deeper. I was just in Memphis, Tennessee, for the anniversary of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, and I was going through the museum, the Civil Rights Museum, and I was pointing out to people, like, no disrespect to Rosa Parks, but I was pointing out the cases of Claudette Colvin, the young sister who was 16 years old, who a lot of people didn't get credit to. Melissa Louise Smith also, who were prior to Rosa Parks. And so So different. So now the palate, the appetite is calling for more than just a month. There's discussion now. People say this is a conversation that has to happen. You know what I'm saying? Not just in a certain period of time, but it has to be like implemented in our discussions at dinner, in our discussions at the sports arenas, the barbershops, the beauty parlor, and in other words, to look for like a revolutionary climate.
Right.
It's a revolutionary climate.
Do you think Hollywood have done enough to protect or project the black story? I mean, I know that for now there are a couple of movies that tell the black story, like that of Harriet. I mean, a movie on Rosa Parks, a movie on the three women who were able to, help NASA go to space and all that. But have they done enough, or you want to see more?
Well, first, even how we view it, the history of Hollywood. We don't put the onus that we even look to Hollywood to be our historians. I think back. That's I think that assessment we have to be real careful with it. I recall an interview that Malcolm X was doing, and the interviewer I mentioned Malcolm X. He said, "Well, Jackie Robinson, who's a famed athlete, said Jackie Robinson disagrees with your position about violence." And Malcolm X said, "Whoa, wait a minute. We don't hold Bob Hope or Marilyn Monroe as your spokespersons." You know what I'm saying? So the deal is we have to create such a groundswell that the ante is upped, that this is a conversation. The conversation in with Hollywood, again, the churches, the mosques, you know what I'm saying? Movements come from the ground up. You seen like during that revolutionary period of the 60s, you know what I'm saying? There was discussions about, Battle of Algiers and the movies, the climate the ante was up, different, the music. Marvin Gaye was able to go against Berry Gordy.
Right.
Motown Records said, "I'm gonna put this song out. What's going on?" You know what I'm saying? Sam Cooke himself talks about how he even looked at white counterparts. I think it was a group, the Mamas and the Papas. He said, "How are these people talking about social issues, but they want to just keep us limited to just quote unquote love songs?" Where the ante was being upped. There was a movement with James Brown. James Brown had a whole totally different song playing at first. He wasn't talking about singing "I'm Black and I'm Proud."
Right.
It was forces such as H.R. Brown, not only is he Imam Jimmy Al-Amin, a present-day political prisoner, that literally put the pressure on him. So you better go back in the studio with that garbage. And he came back out saying, "I'm black and I'm proud." You know what I'm saying? So we say streets make the music. Music don't make the streets. In fact, like some years back, for example, this is another war and love story. Kanye West. Right. Kanye West had said something. This is in response to many people refer to as Hurricane Katrina. We called it Hurricane America because we exposed certain contradictions, like the levees being blown up in New Orleans, how the white parts of New Orleans, like the French quarters, how they weren't impacted. And when Kanye West had came out on the national TV and said George Bush does not like black people, it was a big. I don't know if you recall. It was a big. Now that was not just on his own volition. That was in response to we had a discussion with him approximately 8 hours before he said that.
So that was preconceived.
Yeah. We had a Borders bookstore, north side of Chicago. We had a discussion with him. You know what I'm saying? And the movements. I study history. The role of movements. Again, that's something. What the system does is they flip the script. They tell our community that the entertainment industry dictates to us. That's our leadership, so on and so forth. We say no. We know the history that movements make things happen. You know what I'm saying? And that's what triggers that.
Then I believe that you make as a noun appreciate more of Tyler Perry's creation. I mean, I've seen I don't know if you've seen the movie 666, where I speak of all the black women who were taken to war to send back home letters of military personnel whose family were not hearing from them on the grounds. Probably you may appreciate his works more because we need more black people to tell the black stories, isn't it?
Yeah, and this the deal is a lot of people don't look at it simply just like out of I know it's idealistic a lot of times. If people say they're just going to do the right thing, but a lot of times people their first incentive like the financially benefit, the economic payout. So to make this a popular discussion, to talk, and the narrative, like we expose certain, like even with the movie Judas and Black Messiah.
Right. I
was on the set even down to the scene with the kiss scene. Daniel Cooley and Dominique Fishback portraying my mother and father, and we were making light of it. Like, Chairman, you gonna be here for that? I said, yeah. And lo and behold, unbeknownst to me, it came out later on. There was discussion that was an actual law years back in Hollywood to never show our people in a loving relationship.
So that was intentional.
Yeah, politically, I knew the significance of how he approaches her and how she approaches him. You know what I'm saying? I know historically how our people are depicted. You know what I'm saying? I study that, like our relationships. Look at the music industry. You look at the movies. You look at propaganda. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's just a TV show, it's hard. You'll find a hard find to see our people in the actual loving relationship. I didn't know the significance. I didn't know the details. That there was a law, but I know politically that everything is political. The images, how we're depicted, how we're not depicted, and what we can relate to. There was a show that I grew up on called Good Times, and which showed the Cabrini Green projects in north side of Chicago. And the brother Eric Monte, who actually wrote this, I used to have discussion with him daily. And his brother, he was ripped off for resources, you know what I'm saying? He ended up in a homeless shelter. But he would tell me the battles that he engaged in to fight to have a mother and a father inside a household in this movie Good Times, TV show Good Times.
I mean, that's quite interesting. It's just making me feel how probably a struggle to see your fellow Black person have a role of real love on TV. At least psychologically,
yes,
it tells the kids that at least the Black people can also do it.
Yes.
You know, but let's talk about the current administration,
yes.
the Trump-Vance administration. Yeah. Lots of conversations, sending people back from the U.S. to their homes, the biggest deportation ever in the history of America. For now, how would you rate or assess the administration of Trump-Vance?
Well,
I mean, you can even touch on the Zelensky conversation in the White House. I mean, when Trump and Vance met Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, and how the communication went, you know, Trump allowing Vance, the vice president, speak to Zelensky anyhow. I believe you might have seen it.
Yeah. It's time period. How the old axiom goes: the emperor has no clothes on. You know what I'm saying? Where you see the politics, the rawness, the undress. You know, I think it's incorrect assessment to say that these. I mean, a lot of these dynamics. This the first time happens. I think, even let's go with the situation, the dialogue with the Ukrainian president Zelensky. I think prior to that, a lot of situations they would come out, they were behind the scenes, and they use these different metaphors and words of, there's a book called Economic Hitman, where the U.S. is able to tell other countries, you know what I'm saying, this is how this is going to operate.
Is that how it should be? Should we have the U.S. president try to dictate to the rest of the world?
I believe this. This is how it has been. It's kind of like the old axiom says: if a tree falls in the forest and you don't hear it, doesn't make a noise. People say, "Well, I didn't hear it." A lot of people have not been hearing this. The deal is this is. In fact, he said before when they brought out the number of cages, but the detainee cages. You know what I'm saying? They used early on in regards to this, about the first Trump administration, when he was the 45th president. They said, how these cases? He said, these cases have been here, I think he said back to the Carter administration. So again, so I think it's more of there are discussions that are happening now similar to like during the 60s under Richard Milhouse Nixon, where contradictions that were dormant, like coronavirus, it may have been dormant, but this has been going on for quite some period of time. If some people tell you he has not surpassed in regards to immigration, he has not surpassed the number under the Obama administration. They say Obama, the immigration deportation under his tenure, they say surpassed what Trump is doing now. They say he's catching up with him, but these are contradictions and issues that have been happening. You know what I'm saying? There's been a modus operandi with U.S. You know what I'm saying?
So would you say it's an intentional communication to make him look bad?
I don't think he needs any help on how he looks. He's
a whole tool on his own.
It's a time. America has a history of varying with the carrot or the big stick. You know what I'm saying? Different times to get an agenda. You know what I'm saying? Whether the Machiavellian tactics, the tactics to go through. Again, I reference this book called Economic Hitman, where they approach us to say, come to you, you know what I'm saying, to make you offer you can't refuse. Let's go with the Zelensky situation. When he left U.S., he met with the U.K.
Yes. Keir Starmer seems to be welcoming.
You say it seemed to be welcoming?
Yeah.
Okay, but many people didn't catch the small. Okay, the fine print. He met with him. Everybody laughing, smiling, but then he leaves out with I think what a $350 million loan. Not give. They say it's a loan, so it's still someone's going to be taking your sovereignty. You know what I'm saying? You owe, whether it be mineral rights, someone straight out telling you we're going to take this from you, or you know what I'm saying, like the old mafia movies.
So what if I understand what you're saying? It means, in as much as we saw Starmer smiling with Zelensky after the meeting, it was only for the cameras because they had given them a loan that they have to repay. Is that what you're saying?
This is not a hypothesis. This actually the UK is saying with Ukraine, and this is the case a lot of times, whether it be cases like Ukraine or Tokyo or whatever. Okay, you see battle.
But is that more positive than what the American president did?
It depends.
Rather than trading the natural resources of Ukraine to help them fight their war.
With the deprivation of self-determination, however you want to look at it, would be 6 or half a dozen. You know what I'm saying? I mean that of the lack. You know what I'm saying? We can look at examples. You know what I'm saying? With the embargo on Cuba, we can look at situations with Haiti, with the debt that the French talks about. You can see the detrimental impact on people's lives. You know what I'm saying? So whether you had to be starved one way or another. You know, it's some people. That's a discussion people have in many cases. You know, saying you talk about like in the U.S. the Democratic Party, Republican Party, and as opposed to wait a minute, what about that? That's not acknowledge that the discussion on self-determination is taken off the table.
And there you have it, a very insightful conversation. I'm praying that one of these days we can get him again for a part 2 of it. Fred Hampton Jr., son of Fred Hampton Sr., assassinated in 1969. Interesting. Anyways, my fresh and new favorite segment here on the program, Ex-Crew Couch. Let me take my time before I say something else. Ex-Crew Couch. This is where you get to see the crew members, you know, the brains behind the program, the guys who are behind the scenes. Speak to you and what they make of the program. You know, they can even talk about issues, training and all that. But tonight we are starting with what's the make of the program exclusive, the experience on the show, and what they think we can actually handle. One of the crew members told me that I'm really not serious on the program. You're going to see that. And it's in series, it has been serialized. So every single week, you get 2 people of the crew joining us here on the program for their take on experience. But for tonight, this is our first 2 of the crew members. Enjoy this.
Very good. And I'll really take up to the camera. Yeah, by default, so by default. By the way, I'm Kiki, the director of the show. And we are,
I'm Michael, known as Jesus.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So, you know, Exclusive has been on for like more than a year now. I think by April, it's going to be 2 years. And, you know, when you guys were recording the first episode, I was in part. The first episode. How was it like?
You know, that experience, the one experience we have no expect that.
It just came out.
Right? Creative control group. We said, oh, no basketball day town.
Yeah, basketball.
Yeah. The day town so for this bit of opportunity. So we're something out there to school. Between I say me there, maybe I'm on TV, I will be joking. Even yesterday, they want to make us see how make it do. So the thing is, protect the team and go deep
To create
to create something else.
Do you know that first episode?
Me, so Joshua. Yeah, the sound person.
Yeah, Zuri.
Something calling you.
Sharon.
At the end of the day,
So now this is where we are.
this something.
So you won't be the godfathers of Exclusive. I'm gonna go down like that.
But you
He
guys
said, I don't know how I come on the show. This will be right to not anyway.
I believe right, this is a beginning of everything. Some people will start wait for great sound. The ideas there, you know, they want is
It's very collective. Be very something collective, a team.
So you be very close.
So that's one thing I like about our
So
team.
once we come inside, different faces come inside, when a prodigal son. I don't know why I left.
Answer for you.
But as I left, it helped.
How?
No. It helped. But then I thought, I say, where is crazy go? Fuck. I mean, but sometimes I control. Then it's
They allow some people.
some people and that out. But at the end of the day, to us as drove, I know what me to against because as part.
Jesus.
Because my blood did that thing. My blood was way. I did the thing inside beginning, so me living I no left crowd.
Now you did the time you record Nacha. That girl with the single,
Yeah. Oh,
she can't put some carry the play piano sometimes.
no.
That girl is single.
The boys did.
Yeah. That was it.
The boys now they most me like ice with the levels.
Tell me. So, your experiences on the show so far, like, how do you think it has been?
Experience the one show where they put me on a floor. They make you think. Yes. You know they limit you. It brings something out of you. Yeah. It brings something out of you.
The words not enough. Well, for me, it's been something we've been learning always. Like each episode is something different. You don't do the same thing. That's one thing about it's not like maybe I'll go first or you move it.
Hey!
No, you go first. Answer that question.
Okay.
Read up question.
Is it what keeps you going in your work and personal life? What keeps me going? What keeps me going? My prayer life. My time with God. My time because the day 24 hours I spend more time with God than my work.
So that's what keeps you going.
Yeah, my prayer life, my personal life with God. Yeah, now.
So something is what's one random fact about you people don't know?
I'm not fast alone.
Hey. Sure. You know everything now.
What is it?
Is it?
What is it? Okay.
Oh, my mother will dig this, but that would fact about me. It's you know. When it comes to work, yeah, seriously, sharing and all that. I don't think there's a ground fact is not on me. Yeah, I think from afar, some people think I'm too serious, but I'm cool. I'm down to earth to play. Second question.
Yeah. Jesus shed fish and loaf of bread. Of bread.
What did you say? You know, make a ring for you. You like this, so. Or so the question is the time Jesus they talk to like multiple people like Jesus shared a fish and 2 loaves of bread. Can you tell me if the bread was butter bread or sugar bread? the bread they're sharing that one the small boy carry can eat. Not be butter or sugar. I mean this is not that
Everything in Jesus that time they mix everything. So we mix bread inside everything, he mix everything.
for one bread inside.
One bread inside. That's why if you cut them in pieces, one person himself know if you chop the one or
Sugar the butter. So I go for that bread. I go for that bread.
how them go for that bread. Jesus mix.
Jesus makes things like that sugar bread. Yeah. If we grade our own TV show, or you, our own TV show, How do you know?
I don't know now.
Which one would you?
I want a TV show.
Michelle.
T show.
Tissue.
Usually like T zone, but some of the T show I don't
Yeah. Tissue.
T show.
Yeah. Go have the first.
Yeah. The government. You know what's APG?
I mean you the girls they feel is
Hey,
me.
I beg. Yeah, that's in the other thing, but you know the good at it.
And you know who always make a top water. The girls they feel so maybe they sleep with them, you sleep there and you have the street
From the street. Who your favorite musician?
Shatawale.
Shatawale.
Except for life. For life is for life.
So he yeah, take a boy, make start man. Hey, time I'm in Jeffrey something.
Yeah. You go through a lot.
Sorry.
All me want Bible place. I favorite Bible place.
Hey. You read the whole Bible.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that. Mega di personas.
No.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Magazine. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey, John 3:16.
I mean, you know the vision.
I remember the first time we went to record exclusive, and I told him, I told Charlie, I beg, I'll come back like 30 minutes. I'll go to edit backdrops and logos in it because you have to be able to spot the link with what is. Oh, get the set and I went back. I'm like, yes, I told the camera is on the handle. So it was very deep. I just, also,
Keep in mind.
I'm telling you, he has done everything right for me, but you're going to stand short. I was telling you, you know, probably a good story. But anyways, are there any questions you guys have? Also, I wanted to ask me. And I think one question.
Is that a question?
Any question that you also like about the production?
About production.
Everybody says, not say it about the production. It's like it's all on the ask me. It's the only time they want to get that in action.
Really the ones when you see a show you there's peace. Oh, this.
You know, interestingly, when Tina was talking, she mentioned the fact that, she said the link with the people in Dargin. They asked me, why don't you make it international? Why don't you make sure that people outside also get to watch it? Our social media has not really been active.
Yeah.
You know, like it's, I mean, let's be honest, it's true, like, breakfast shows are one of the biggest morning shows in the US. It's not even on radio, it's on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. It's one of the biggest, actually. You know, so, you know, Shishi, he shows like one of the biggest one-on-one TVs in the US. It's not on TV, it's on YouTube. So I feel like probably I want to make sure our social media handles are very active. So you people can go there and you watch it, not where you are. We are praying we get some big interviews also, you know. It's watch out, we have some very big interviews as well. We already have one recorded. Yeah, we're going to play later. Just something, just
Just
yeah, something big. Something international. That's that. For the guys, I will come back. Kiki, for sure.
Because, you know,
Yes.
I think that's
We are dripping, you know.
Is it?
Silk shirts. Gina Michi. I don't know what's it.
What's it?
Who from was it?
Charlie, it's around.
So thank you so much for watching the program here, and that was X Crew Couch. I was just about to say something. So yes, it's called X Crew Couch, where we get to be speaking or hearing from our crew members here on the program of the studio, makeshift studio, telling us what they make of the program and what they think could be done better here on the show. Only because of you at home watching us, wherever you're watching us from, we say thank you so much for watching us here in the studio and from our brand new studio, very fresh and brand new. We made, you know, revamped, fresh segment, fresh energy, and a new member who is not normal. Sammy, I see you. And so thank you so much for watching the show here tonight. I am Bright and Amaning. Until some other time, don't forget, it's no more Sunday. It's now Saturday, 8 p.m. here on Metro TV. I am Bright and Amaning. Have a good night. Thank you.